this session. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Cara Tang, and I'm a faculty member at Portland Community College in Portland, Oregon. I teach in the Computer Information Systems Department, courses in programming and databases. And I'm here in this session as a member and vice chair of the ACM Committee for Computing Education in Community Colleges. This is a standing committee of the ACM Education Board, and our major project over the past 2 years has been to put together some curricular guidelines for associate degree IT programs. And so we're very excited that that has been finalized and been published now. We have it in physical form. You can take one home with you today. I have a box of them. It's also available online, of course. And so the title of the talk is the title of these guidelines, which is ACM Competency Model of Core Learning Outcomes and Assessment for Associate Degree Curriculum in Information Technology. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the process that we went through in coming up with these guidelines. And then we'll take a look at what comprises the IT curricular guidance. And then I want to talk a little bit about degree and certificate correlation. So this is an opportunity for you all to correlate your degree or certificate program to these guidelines. And then we'll have discussion, but feel free to stop me with questions or comments along the way. We can make this interactive. So as I said, this has been a project of a few years. Phase one of the project went from 2011 to 2012. And the purpose of this phase of the project was really to determine, first of all, whether there's a need for curricular guidance at this level and what should be the nature of that guidance. And so there was assembled a diverse working group with representatives from academia as well as industry, and they determined that there was a compelling need for IT curricular guidance at the associate degree level. And furthermore, they came up with some recommendations on what that guidance should look like, what should be the nature of that guidance. And the first key point is that it should be built on a framework of core learning outcomes. So if you think about IT and all the different IT programs out there, there's a lot of variety. And rather than try and tackle every possible direction that you could go with an IT degree, the recommendation was to focus on what's common to IT programs. What is the intersection of those IT programs, those core learning outcomes. And then secondly, it should be accompanied by meaningful evaluation metrics. So to make this useful, to make this something that we can apply and use. And it should be influenced by various things, such as current and future needs of business and industry. So those close ties that the field of IT has with business, that to really influence the guidance. New and emerging technology. So with a fast-paced field like ours, it's tough to set guidelines or guidance, but as much as possible, we wanted to try and make it forward-looking and accommodate for new and emerging technologies. And also some of these other things, international perspectives, certifications, related curricula, government and standards bodies, all these should influence the guidelines. So this was the first phase. And the second phase was then to actually create the guidance. And so one of the first steps in that was to review what's out there already. Look at related existing guidance and ontologies. And so this included the U.S. Department of Labor's IT competency model, the ACM's baccalaureate IT guidelines, the European e-competence framework, and the CSTA, Computer Science Teachers Association, computer science standards. So those were all kind of inputs into creating the guidance. And then we convened some subject matter experts from business and industry, as well as two-year college faculty. It was about a half-and-half mix. There was a large group that met in New York to kind of get started on this. And we also had assessment experts there. So we really wanted the meaningful evaluation metrics to be done right and to be usable and meaningful. And so we had assessment experts to help us with that part of it. And so this group drafted the first set of core IT learning outcomes and assessment rubrics that went along with that. And then it went through many updates and further modifications over time, including some public drafts along the way, straw man and Iron Man drafts that were made available for public review and comment. And various of us went out and presented about these at conferences, including this one. Last year I was at this conference with a colleague. If anyone caught that talk, Jim Nichols and I were here last year, and we got some great feedback from this community. So we got feedback from different communities via these public drafts and incorporated all of that into the guidelines as well. And so now we're actually in phase 3. So we just in October of last year got the final report approved by the ACM Ed Board so that we were able to publish it. We actually have it published now. It's available at capspace.org. Capspace.org is our committee's website. You can remember it. The CAP stands for Curriculum, Assessment, and Pedagogy. So capspace.org /IT report is where you can find this report online. It's also available at the ACM Digital Library. And you can pick up a hard copy today, but if you want to write this down to give to a colleague who might be interested, the ACM order number, if you want to order a hard copy like this from ACM, is 99914, and you would only have to pay shipping and handling to get that. And then the reason there's a, the years there's like 2014 dash, the ongoing part is these collection of certificate and degree correlations. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that later. All right, so let's take a look at what is actually in the guidance. So the heart of these curricular guidelines are these 50 student learning outcomes of core IT competencies. And so again, we're just looking at the core. These 50 student learning outcomes would not describe an entire 2-year program. They describe, so like if you had a program in networking, this could be the foundation or the core, but you would need to go further in networking if you had a networking specific program, or further in, whatever your program was. So these 50 student learning outcomes, and we also, each learning outcome has a 3-tiered assessment rubric associated with it. So this can help give further clarity to the outcome, as well as meaningful evaluation metrics for that outcome. And then another part of the guidance is we took these 50 learning outcomes and we mapped them to other curricula and frameworks, including some of the ones shown here, such as the ACM's IT Baccalaureate Guidelines, the U.S. Department of Labor IT Competency Model, and others. And I'll show you later on our website where you can find these mappings. So if you're familiar with one of these and want to see how this, how these 50 student learning outcomes map up, you can take a look and see that. And then the other part of the guidelines is these correlations that I mentioned. So what the correlations are, and we have a few of them that are included even in the published version, but we're going to continue to collect them. So this is where a school takes their degree or certificate program, looks at the courses that are in that program, and then looks at these 50 student learning outcomes and sees, like in this course, which of these student outcomes do I cover in this course, which do I cover in this course, and so you correlate your program in that way. And that way, it's kind of like an example. So if you were wondering, well, okay, we have these 50 student learning outcomes, but how would that look like in a real program? You can go and look at some of these correlations that people have done and see what that looks like. So these are kind of the components of the IT curricular guidance. And I also want to mention, we're very pleased that we have a number of organizations that have championed this guidance. And these include organizations such as MPICT and Baytech, also companies such as Cisco and Google, also community colleges such as the Maricopa Community College District, Portland Community College, and others. So all of these people on this list, and there's more that you'll find in the full guidance, champion this guidance. And the second bullet really describes what it means to champion the guidance. These champions appreciate the importance of robust associate degree IT programs, make a commitment to the academic foundations of IT students, and promote education that meaningfully prepares graduates as future employees and practitioners. So great to have all those champions. All right, and I also want to mention a little bit about how you can use the guidance. And this is also included in the report on page 7. So, you may have some ideas already about how you might use this, but we have some examples as well. So conducting program reviews to update and create curriculum. Let me give you an example of this. At PCC, we do a program review every 5 years, and last year was the year that we came up for program review. And so one of the things that we did is we took, the current draft of this guidance, and we compared our program to this guidance, and we wrote that up in our program review. And so that was something we included, and that was something we even got feedback on from the administrators in their written feedback to us. They liked to see that we had taken our program and compared it to some national standards. creating program outcomes, facilitating program and course articulation. So the California Faculty Discipline Review Group used these guidelines in their IT model curriculum that they developed. So uses like that, crafting course and program assessments. Another example at PCC, a colleague and I are creating a new capstone course for our program, and this is going to kind of emphasize some of those soft skills. One of the things we hear a lot from our advisory board is, you know, we want students with good soft skills, communication, teamwork, and stuff like that. So we're trying to get more of that into our program. We're creating a capstone course. We didn't have one before. And in the creation of that capstone course, we were able to use some of these outcomes in the assessment rubric that fit right in because it was exactly what we wanted in our course. So we did that. So those are just some of the ways that you can use the guidance. All right, so now let's take a look at actually what are these 50 student learning outcomes. And I'm going to go ahead and pass these around. This is a handout that lists all 50 of the learning outcomes. So if you want to maybe take one of those. What's that? Oh, yeah. We had to make it big to fit them all. Yeah, so as you look at this lists all 50 of the outcomes in the left-hand column, and you'll notice that they're organized into 12 program outcomes. So for example, all right, looks like everyone's got one now. So for example, the first program outcome is an ability to demonstrate core IT competency in client computing and user support. And then, you know, underneath that we have outcomes like carry out troubleshooting strategies for resolving an identified end user IT program. Number 2, differentiate among various operating systems, and so on. And then also associated with each outcome is that assessment rubric. So we have, it's a 3-tiered assessment rubric. The emerging standard, that would mean the student hasn't really developed that competency yet, but they're emerging, they're starting to. Then we have the developed standard, and then we have the highly developed standard, where that student has really even gone beyond developing that. So like, for example, for outcome number 2, differentiate among various operating systems, the emerging would be the student describes a few commonly used operating systems. The developed would be the student summarizes several operating systems and differentiates among those systems. And then the highly developed would be the student compares several operating systems on the basis of computing platforms and usability. So you could get a little bit more information by looking at the assessment rubric on, you know, what the outcome means, and then of course you can also use that assessment in any way. So there are technical outcomes on here among the 50, as well as behavioral outcomes, so those soft skills outcomes. Some of the soft skills ones are on the second page on this handout. So for example, kind of in the middle of the page, there's the program outcome, which reads, an ability to function effectively as a member of a diverse team to accomplish common goals. And so we have the learning outcome, use communication, negotiation, and collaboration skills as a member of a diverse team. So we have a variety here. We also have some outcomes related to business awareness. So recognizing that IT, you know, those close ties to business. And so the last program outcome is an ability to demonstrate business awareness and workplace effectiveness. And we have a couple outcomes related to that as well. A little bit more about these learning outcomes. They span the first 3 levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So this was something that those assessment experts helped us with, was doing this right and using Bloom's revised taxonomy, which is the spectrum from, you know, your lower order thinking skills up to your higher order thinking skills. And so the first 3 levels are remembering, understanding, and applying. And this pie chart just shows the breakdown of the outcomes, these 50 outcomes. So 5 of the outcomes are at the remembering level, 27 of them are at the understanding level, and 18 of them are at the applying level. Question?
Why?
Yeah. So this is right. So this represents, remember, this represents the core of you know, kind of the intersection of IT programs. So if you had your program in networking, you know, maybe you would want your students to develop some of these higher order thinking skills at the networking level. Or even, you know, you could argue that this is a 2-year degree program, so, you know, a lot of what they're learning, you're certainly going to start out at these lower levels, and you want to progress, but, you know, by the time you are just completed kind of your core, have you gotten there or not? So, you know, one of the things that we were keeping in mind as we were kind of developing these, you know, when we were looking at, say, you know, the second program outcome is competency in database and information management. So because we were looking at want to focus on the core, we would ask ourselves, okay, so, you know, for this database outcome that we have in mind, what do networking students really need to know about that? Do they really need to, you know, do something at the higher level or not? So we tried to keep it at, you know, just what would be that intersection that all students, really all students should have, you know, these competencies when they come out. Yeah.
I appreciate the good work.
Well, applying, I think, I mean, with applying, you're doing something. You're you know, applying that knowledge to complete a task. Right, and again, this isn't to say that students shouldn't be doing these things. This is just, this guidance is kind of that core, and then when you build your program, you go beyond that. When you build your program, you can have them do some of these higher level skills. Yes. 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 This is your baseline. That's good. Okay. That's fine. I mean, if you're
I write a student learning outcome that any of those first 3, they get the best.
Yeah.
Really?
I'm just, you know.
Interesting.
So that's all. And I think that's
okay.
getting that reaction. But I agree with you. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Because I think what this is, you know, we go over and beyond that. So
I agree. I think the same hurdle with my institution. One of the things that makes the challenge to me is that we're without exception our organization. So we can't get everything before people are already ready to do my work. Others may consider themselves fortunate because they get the phone. So the bar is set low. We're in the same table that we are. It's part of this group in our buildings. It was a very active discussion about what we initially came up with was further down. As Cara mentioned earlier, and that's what we kind of had to keep going back to. This is not for only networking. So this is what would a networking person need to know about all these other things, for example. What would a database person need to know about all these other things? So then within that focus area, you would certainly want to go beyond. But for the core, that's where it was. It's where it was left. Justin, it was very active.
So I completely agree with the folks that it should be, everything we do should be on the other side. I mean, from the moment they walk in, because otherwise we're not serving them well. That is those are the skills they need in the real world. It's, you know, so I think even at the core, we need to be focusing on not just obtaining content, but being able to analyze it, but being able to obtaining content, being able to evaluate it, so doing those higher level skills, one, and setting that expectation there, even though we are open enrollment, that is, if we don't do that, we're providing a disservice just like students.
Okay, thank you.
If I was a higher developed standard, I'm looking at this now, but it's actually good enough. And if I look at the highly developed standard, actually we have quite a few of the higher order.
We do. We do.
Thinking skills on that list.
Right.
So I don't think, now that I look at this more, you know, in more detail, not my diagram, I really think that MPICT explains and analyzes several times here. And so, you know, I just think maybe there's a little disconnect between the that, you know, I have no idea what we're holding in our hands here.
Right, so let me just clarify one thing. So when we say the first 3 levels, that would be for the developed standard and the rubric. So the highly developed end of the standard definitely uses some of these higher ones. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great. Awesome. Any other comments? Yeah.
In terms of the general skills, was there any reason or could you explain to me why one of the more soft skills? One thing I hear over and over and over again is problem solving skills. So why not that on here? Or is that embedded, or do you think it's embedded within the IEP?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Problem solving will be embedded in, you know, in various forms in some of these other.
Yeah, but one of the things that I think that the students that don't necessarily have is methodology and problem solving. So sometimes that has to be intentionally built into, you know what I mean?
To call that out.
Yeah. So we have a question for their team.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, great discussion. Yeah, no problem. Oh, yeah. Good. All right, did you have another?
The so-called soft skills, which is a combination so that we get up the literary to the soft level.
Yeah, these last 5 program outcomes related, you know, to things like teamwork, communication, continuous learning, ethical behavior. These would all be the soft, or the behavioral as opposed to technical. Yeah.
Where I come from, the city college, we call them foundational skills.
Okay.
Because these soft ones are hard to do.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, feel free to keep looking over that, and if you have any thoughts, to bring them up. I also want to talk about the degree and certificate correlations. So we have this growing collection of degree and certificate correlations that align with these ACM outcomes, and you can access those on our webpage, and I'll do that right now, actually. So capspace.org, if you go to curricula, then program inventory, and then institutional computing programs or certificates correlated with an ACM CCECC program. So here is our this is our home page, and actually while I'm here, I just want to show you a couple of things. If you ever want to contact us about anything, this contact us on the far right here in the navigation bar. You can all click that. That'll give you a form which you can fill out. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to curricula and program inventory. So we have a lot of resources on this website. And before I show you the correlations, I just want to show you some of the other things we have here. So our committee, kind of in our purview, is, you know, computing education in general. So besides IT, we also, you know, look at computer science and computer engineering. So if you want to see the details on the IT program, this guidance that we just came out with, you can choose career as the type here, and then information technology core competencies, and then click the link that appears, and this will show you various details on the program. So you can open up each of these to see some information. And I mentioned mappings before, so I want to show you those mappings. So this last one here, classification mappings for the course learning outcomes, if you open that one up, I'm going to click the second link here. You can choose the classification system. So these are all the classification systems to which we have mapped our outcomes. So if you are familiar with the U.S. Department of Labor IT competency model and you want to see, you know, how these outcomes map to those, you can go to this page and see these different categories from the U.S. Department of Labor model. And when you open them up, you can see which outcomes from these 50 ACM student learning outcomes are associated with those categories in the Department of Labor model. So you can get that information there. But now I'm going to go back to show you the correlation. So again, this was just from curriculum and program inventory. I got to this page. And now the very last one here will show us the correlations. Okay, and so these we have, I think we have about 9 of them here already. So these are ones that various people have submitted to us. You can see the institutions that they come from, the names of the programs, the types of the programs. So you can, submit a correlation for, could just be a small certificate program, could be a degree program. And I'll show you the one that's from Bluegrass Community and Technical College. So this is their Computer and Information Technologies program. And if we take a look at the details, we just have the basic information, and you can click on the program title, by the way, to go to the web page, at that institution on their program. But then when you open up course description, so this shows these are the courses that are part of that program at Bluegrass. And these are just their descriptions from, from their catalog. But then for each course in that program, you can open up this part to see which outcomes, which of those 50 outcomes are addressed in each course. So you can see what their course looks like. You can see what, what outcomes are associated with each course. Let me show you one more. So here's one that's a certificate program at Estrella Mountain Community College. Yep, you can also use it. So this one says this is their Linux Professional. It's just a 2-course certificate of completion. So we just have these 2 courses, and we can see, which outcomes they cover in these different courses. So this is what the correlations look like. Any comments or questions so far? Yeah. No. I mean, you may not hit them all, and you probably have others that you hit that that aren't even on this list for places you go beyond what's here. So yeah, it doesn't have to be 100% correlation. Yes.
Several courses that you have these groups.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, we're pretty course.
Yeah.
But one course may have several.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. These are, so when you look at these program outcomes, or the grouping for the learning outcomes, these are not courses at all. So don't think courses when you see these. One course could hit outcomes from all sorts of different categories. Definitely, yeah. All right, and so now I want to show you where you can submit a correlation. So I'm going to go to capspace.org/correlation. And so when you take a look at your program and you want to submit a correlation, you can come here. This is just this is a web-based form, and I'll walk through it. But if you're someone who would want to kind of do it offline first, think about it offline, work on it, we provided a worksheet that you can use to kind of aid you in doing your correlation offline first, and then just putting it into the web form. So this has all the same fields that are on the web form. This is where you would put in your courses and just your catalog descriptions. And then in this matrix, you would also put each of your courses as a column here. And then these are the student learning outcomes along the side, and you could just put some kind of mark in the box to indicate that course includes or addresses this competency. And then let me tell you about one trick. So these outcomes are arranged in the same order that you see them on this handout. So they're arranged, grouped by those program outcomes. But when you go to the web form, they will be arranged alphabetically, unfortunately. So, but that's this. So in this spreadsheet, there's a macro setup. So if you enable the macros that's mentioned here, you can fill it out with the more convenient, order, and then you hit Control-Shift-A, and it will resort them based on the same order that you'll see them in the web form. So, little thing to aid you there. And I'll just show you what this looks like. I'm just going to put in a sample correlation here. You can just fill in all your information, and you'll get a confirming email at the end. So you'll want to put your email address in correctly. So we have a list of all the schools in the database that we have. So hopefully your school would be on that list. But if not, you could select not listed. So I'll just pick something. And then you would put in your program title, and choose the program type, which is either on this list or you can pick other. And then your program URL. I'm just going to put in some random stuff. And then if there was any additional program notes that you wanted to include, you know, you could type that in here if you had anything. And then, of course, once you get through this, you proceed. Okay, and then from this point on, each page is for one course. So you would put in your course number and title here, you know, whatever that is. Then you would put in your description from the catalog. You could just paste that in. And then here are the learning outcomes sorted out alphabetically. So you would just pick among these, whichever ones are included in that course. Okay, and then you can add another course, and it'll just take you to this page again. And then at any time, you can also review your submission. So if you click Review Submission, and this will also give you the ability to go back and re-edit anything. If you notice a mistake, you could re-edit your program information, which is shown here by clicking this button. You could, if one of these course informations you made a mistake, you could edit that course information. Or if you want to delete the course, you can delete it. And you can also then continue on to add new courses from this review page as well. And then whenever you're done, you can submit and finish. So that's basically the form. Pretty simple to submit a correlation. So we'd love to have some additional correlations being submitted. Any questions, comments on this? Okay. Yeah. You mean just as a strategy in a class or something, or? Oh, so something even less than a certificate, like? Interesting. I don't know. Does anyone else have this one? Yeah.
Well, the issue is uncertain.
Yeah, good point.
Well, I mean, if you really want to talk about an idea of strategy and the whole core of it is administration, right? So that is what would align your strategies with a set of skills or a singular skill. You would make that determination, but that would be the emphasis of demonstrate skill, and then it would be a quick overview to be able to see that, you know, this person has these skill sets by simply having strategies. Right? Who determines what those skill sets are and how the badge is awarded and received is completely based on whoever is awarding the badge.
How many people want to go through accreditation? That's
why we're not putting it in.
Yeah.
Let's say these things, but so you were on the committee to build the competency model, right, for learning outcomes, but I also noticed in the chapter that's front layout that ACM is looking at pedagogy. So we learn that at all, or becoming that what they're doing.
So our, let me pull the website back up. Yeah, I mean, so CAP, those are kind of the three legs, the three efforts: curriculum, assessment, and pedagogy. Probably pedagogy is where we have the least stuff. We have, you know, curriculum has been kind of a big thing. This one, we've done others, computer science, and we're looking at, you know, maybe revising some of those as well. Assessment pretty good. Pedagogy, yeah, not quite as strong on that one yet. But just where, I mean, limited resources and time, and just where we've put our focus up to now. Yeah, yeah. Any other questions or comments? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right, well, you would just be showing which one you address. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Right, exactly. So that's one of the benefits of you correlating your program as well, is you see, you know, which areas you maybe lack, and yeah. Yeah, so we're pretty much at the end of the talk here. I'll just go ahead and put up the last slide. This is our committee. So the chair of our committee is Elizabeth Hawthorne. I'm the vice chair. Cindy Tucker is a member, and also two former members who had a huge hand in this are Bob Campbell and Jim Nichols. And of course, we have many of other people helping out as well in this project. So our website, capspace.org, feedback, feel free to click the Contact Us link for any information.